In this video, I want to deal with, well, my perception and conception of the concept of duality and dualism. You know, like some people think that life is about dueling with others, or good versus evil, or struggle, and then in the manifesting world, people think that they have to duel it out to get what they want to manifest in their life, the situation or the thing that they want or need. And they think that life is a duel, a fight. Now, I've got a video already that I've done where I talk about this, and it's titled Life is Not a Struggle. And I had to learn that life is not a struggle. It's not a duel. There's no good versus evil unless that's what you want it to be. Let me explain. Good and evil, just like light and dark, just like cold and hot, bitter, sweet, high, low, heavy, light, all those things are one thing. Like weight, heavy, light, temperature, one thing, hot, cold, and degrees of the things in between. Degrees of light, darkness, it's all one thing. Good, evil. Those that are Christians or are familiar with the Bible know that God talks about how He kills and makes alive, that He controls evil and good. Okay, well, the Bible God, right? The entity or deity that I used to believe in for 38 plus years of my life, because I believe in good versus evil. And I also believe that, you know, I was born a sinner, born bad, and I've done bad things, so this fight shit. People in the manifesting world and the so-called spiritual world will talk about fighting your ego, okay? Everyone thinks that everything's separate from themselves, whereas the Kabbalion, a very good mystical and metaphysical book, talks about how everything is just one thing. So within your mind, you have the potential to be evil or good, or degrees in between. You have within your mind, within consciousness, because that's all you really are, is consciousness. And when I say mind, I don't mean the gray matter, your inside of your skull, your cranium. I don't mean the brain matter that neuroscientists, neurosurgeons can touch and things like that, and when they do brain surgery. I'm talking about your consciousness, which, as people that have had out-of-body experiences will tell you, you are your consciousness. You're not your human body. You have a human body and a human brain. You're playing a human person, a human character, a human avatar in this mental matrix, lucid dream life. It's just a game, the game of life. And that phrase, game of life, comes from the Kabbalion. A lot of metaphysicians and mystical writers used to talk about the game of life, but that phrase, as far as I can tell so far, the origination of that phrase, game of life, comes from the Kabbalion. Florence Scovel Shinn, a New Thought writer, later titled her first book after that phrase, game of life. It's a game. It's not a war. It's not a struggle. Now, people have to have duality to make themselves feel like they have a purpose in life. They got to struggle against something. They got to fight against good versus evil. That's why a lot of people in Christianity and things like that, they'll stay that Christianity. They have to believe that there's an evil. That's why they hate anybody that teaches any form of mysticism, metaphysics, New Ageism, any of that kind of shit, spirituality, where that teaches that we're all one and that there's all we need is love, right? Christianity hates that shit. I remember when I was a Christian, the New Age conspiracy is just evil, and paganism is just evil, and all this, that, and the other, because it didn't worship the right gods, and weren't in all the right groups or right churches or things, and they had to have this, that we all have to fight something. We have to fight the devil. So there's people that talk about how manifesting is actually the devil's work. It's evil. They're scared of it. People are scared of the occult, and they'll talk about, the evil part of the occult. Well, the occult just means hidden or esoteric or mystical. Anything like sacred geometry. The Bible is a very occult, mystical, esoteric book of, hidden things here and there and things like that. So it's an occult book. Aleister Crowley knew it was a mystical and occult book. Read the book of Revelation. Read some of the Old Testament prophets. Read some of the sayings of Christ, or even Apostle Paul. These are mystical sayings, okay? Hidden, esoteric, occult. Occult means hidden things, okay? So just because something's occult or hidden or mystical or esoteric does not mean it is bad or evil. Now, people can use any religion, any holy book like the Bible or the Quran or whatever. They can use anything either way. Because in this world, there is only one. There's only one conscious mind. People call it the all. Some people call it God, the mind of God. Some people call it the universe. My favorite term for it is universal mind, the one mind. And within that one mind, there's a seeming, in this reality, so-called reality, which is not objective, by the way. The only objective truth is consciousness, mind. That's it. But in this matrix game of life that we humans are playing here in this seeming real world, we play it with where we put our attention, our awareness, our focus. The state of mind that you're in contains its own awareness, its own focus, its own way of perceiving things and seeing things, and it contains within it its own physical reality. Case in point, you can be in a poverty or financially struggling state of mind. You see the world that way, money's hard to come by, blah, blah, blah. That's a form of duality. But if you start saying, no, I have money, I'm wealthy, or I'm well off, or always have an abundance of money, I have plenty of money to pay all my bills, and I have extra, blah, 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 and you just be in that state of mind no matter what the so-called physical, the pseudo-objective reality out here, physical reality, what happens is things begin to change. Same thing, people have changed bad health into good health, bad finances to good finances, loneliness or bad relationships into good ones, bad situations into good ones, simply by alchemizing it. I wear the ring sometimes of the symbol of alchemy. All right, it's alchemy. Alchemy is in the mind. And you alchemize, you use the Holy Grail, and you alchemize things, and you simply change your awareness to know I'm wealthy, I'm healthy, I'm happily married, I'm in a great loving relationship, I'm in the home I want, I'm in the job I want to do, the career I want to have, I have good cars, I have good relationships, etc., etc. Okay? And you just be in that state of mind, you no longer lack it. In this world of duality, my favorite way of explaining it, in this game of life of duality, the way I like to explain is you chew up bubble gum and you stretch it out, right? You have one end and you have the other, but it's actually just one piece of bubble gum. Well, that's what's going on here in this world. Now, people there's a lot of people just insist that there's got to be something they got to fight or struggle against, okay? Or it's environmentalism, or they got to fight, for a better economy and blah, 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 and you really don't. Now, I have opinions about things, and I like to point out things that I find are crazy or stupid or retarded or hypocritical or whatever. But I don't feel like there's any cause. The only objective in your life, the only people say, I want to find my purpose. What's my purpose? Your purpose is what you say it is. Your purpose in life, but ultimately, in general, all of our purposes are to follow our bliss, to follow our desires, to be your true, authentic self. And your desires and things like that will tell you who your true, authentic self is, the best human character that you're playing that makes you happy, that you enjoy, and all that. Now, some people think that we got to fight evil demons or devils, or we have to fight, the Epstein class and evil politicians. Actually, you don't. You see what you don't want, what you don't like in your own life or in society or in your community, and then you choose what you rather have, what you'd rather see, and you put your energy, your mental focus, and your life's energy into positivity and doing good things. Because what you resist persists, Carl Jung said, and if you keep resisting, you're putting your consciousness, you keep resisting that, it's just going to keep persisting. You're just going to you may fix one problem, but another problem keep popping up because you're focused on problems instead of focused on solutions. Once you see a problem and you recognize it in this world of duality, one end of the stick, if you find your house is cold, you want to go over and turn up the heater. Or if it's hot, you want to turn up the AC, right? So if you find something you don't like, that helps you to learn what you do want, and you go towards that. Now, people talk about manifesting in the manifesting world. So many people are having struggle, and it's only because of one fucking thing that they have a struggle with, manifesting. Once they get the basics, the concept of manifesting things, they still struggle to manifest what they want. There's only one fucking reason why. There's only one reason why. There's only one objective truth, and that's consciousness. And there is only one reason why people don't manifest what they what they desire. It's because they think it's separate from themselves. They're stretching the bubblegum out. If you desire something, within you is also the fulfillment of it. You see, both ends of that stick, the stick is the one thing. Both ends of the graph is one thing. So it's all one thing. So if you desire something, the feeling of fulfillment is already in your mind and consciousness, because you're wanting to manifest something because you feel you would think you would feel better with that money or that loved one or having that car you want or going to that concert that you really want. They don't have tickets. The tickets seemingly are sold out. Whatever it is, that rare painting that you would like to purchase, whatever it is that you think is impossible, if you truly desire it, then the desire and the fulfillment are both mental and within the mind. This is why the Kybalion talks about all is mind. Everything is mental. Okay? So it's all within your head. Pleasure and displeasure is in your head. Fear and love are in your head. Not in your physical head, in your consciousness. Okay? So when you think things are separate from you, then of course you think you gotta, there's shortage, there's a lack of money, or so I don't want to take all the money from everybody, or I don't want to have this much money because it'd be taken from other people, or I don't want to do this because they'll take from other people. No, there's plenty for everyone. This is where the fishes and loaves mystical story in the gospel is talking about. There's that fishes and loaves story, which happened twice. Well, in the New Testament, the story that it happened twice is the fishes and loaves, getting feeding the thousands of people from fishes and loaves and having an abundance of leftovers of loaves of bread and fish. So there's always abundance unless you want to focus on the other end of the stick of lack. Okay? So that's the duality. So if you think you're lacking something, well, the fulfillment of it is also within you. Well, now people think that there's this concept that we got to fight against evil. Now, there are these channeled entities like Ra, calls itself Ra, Ra, the Law of One. That's a book series, okay? Then you have Seth, who is channeled by Jane Roberts. You have Abraham, who's channeled by Esther Hicks. You have Bashar, that's channeled by, what's his name, Daryl? Okay, now, these channeled entities, these consciousness frames, these personalities, they all claim to be aliens that are communicating telepathically with the person that's channeling them. Okay, well, Bashar and Abraham kind of contradict each other on a couple things. And they all have a little areas where they contradict, but in general, they all agree on certain things. And one of them is you create your own reality by what you choose to be aware of. Okay, those four that I mentioned, those four channeled entities that I mentioned. Okay? Now, Ra talks about we're all one. All entities, everyone, every being, all beings, aliens, everybody is all one, all expressions of the one mind. Right? The oneness, right? The law of one. Okay, unity consciousness, all that kind of stuff. But then turns around and tells this big story of how there's certain evil aliens, and they're the good aliens. Ra and his people are good aliens, and they're trying to fight to protect the human beings because human beings are spiritually awakening, and so they want to protect the planet from these evil aliens and mankind from being squashed by the evil aliens. And Christian Gnostics believe in the archons, these spiritual entities that want to rule over you. Christian Gnostics also believe in the demiurge. They believe that the earth was created by intelligent design or an intelligent designer, a type of being or entity or deity or God or whatever, but that this God is a tyrant and doesn't want us to expand. And then the archons are used, these rulers. Archon means, it comes from the word ruler, wants to rule. That's why, anarchy. Anarchos simply means no rulers. You don't have people ruling over you. It doesn't mean no rules, just you don't want people ruling over you or entities ruling over you. So anyhow, now they believe in that duality. Christianity, regular Christianity, whether it's Catholicism, Jehovah's Witness, you got the other offshoots like Mormonism, all Protestantism, and everything in between. You have the concept that you got to fight good versus evil. Even the evil within you, you've got to fight it. You got to fight devils. They're always looking for devils everywhere. So you're going to find those realities. They find those realities. People think that they got to fight these wars and battles, and so they manifest these realities where that's true in their life, but also they can sometimes manifest evil angels or fallen angels, so-called devils, demons, or evil spirits, and then they can manifest so-called holy angels or their dead relatives or spirit guides and all this other bullshit, because people are so focused on this duality and this story, one story or another. Hinduism teaches this, all this struggle of good versus bad, when all it is a stretched out of the concept of good and bad. Both are one thing. Evil and good are one thing. You get to choose what degree. Okay? So, in that choosing, if you choose with the understanding it's all one thing, just like within your mind is the most evil person you can be and the most good a person you can be. Okay, my break time is over, and I will continue this either lunch break or afternoon break or on my way home or whenever. But I want to cover this topic and get my thoughts out. This is why I've been doing these videos here lately, is really wanting to get my thoughts out, get things off my chest, put them out there. If people want to watch, they can watch. I don't promote my videos. I don't even put tags in my videos. I don't have comments under my videos, and I'm damn sure I'm not going to monetize my YouTube channel, because that's not what I'm interested in doing. I make videos for fun about different topics, some about metaphysics, some about my work, some about all kinds of things. Anyhow, all right, hang in there, and in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, I'll be right back. See? Told you it wouldn't take too long. That lamb barely got in that second shake. It's lunch 30, and I'm sitting here in my truck. I pick them up truck. Let me fire it up and get the AC going, because it's hotter than the mythical hell in here. The hell that I was told I'd go to if, I didn't repent of my wicked ways. All right, hopefully the AC won't be too loud. All right, by the way, before I continue in this video, let me explain. I'm full of dad jokeness, and I love playing around with words and puns and things like that. So if you watch my videos or seen some of my titles and things like that of my videos, you'd know that. So the whole idea when I say duel and duality and dualism, and then I talk about dueling, fighting, like 2 men dueling with swords, or 2 countries dueling it out, or 2 boxers dueling in a boxing ring or something like that. I'm just joking. But when I talk about dualism or duality, it is like dueling. It's like two sides are fighting, like you've got to fight one another. Now, one of the things that I'm pointing at and addressing in this video here is the concept of what is known as the divine paradox. And of course, the divine paradox is that it seems like it's a paradox. It seems like it's a paradox. Even some of the things that maybe I say in my videos, it seem paradoxical, where you'll say that there's not 2 things, there's only one thing, but then you'll talk about the 2 things. That's the beauty of this game of life, this human earth game of life, is in this duality. The stretched bubble gum out is one piece of bubble gum, but it's stretched out. You have 2 ends. It's the polarity is what you're experiencing, and it's fun. But remember, it's still all one thing. So that's the divine paradox. But the point being is that to always return back to understanding there is only the one, and the one is consciousness. There's, like I said, there's the duality of a desire and the fulfillment of desire is the same thing. Okay, to not have and to have is actually the same thing. That's the seemingly, when it's stretched out and we experience it in this dual so-called reality, we see these correspondences of these 2 polarities, these 2 seeming extremes, but extremes of the ends of the same stick. Okay. I told my wife as I was studying and learning this stuff, and because of my background and everything, and just being a regular person who didn't know any better and had come to start learning better, I told her, I said, I no longer believe in causes or stories. And what I mean by causes or stories are, okay, I'm interested in the whole Egypt stuff, Atlantis, history, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, for me, it's not about a story of the past or story of the future where we're going. But, whether it's, aliens and going to help us, or aliens are fighting us, or Jesus coming back, or the different stories, right? To me, stories are fun, they're interesting, they make great allegories and all of that, but I don't believe in the literalism of the Bible or any religious stories or anything. Now, as far as duality goes, again, what Carl Jung said, what you resist persists, is because where your consciousness is, that's where energy flows, and that's the reality that continues or is going to come about. So you have like these wars and struggles, a war on drugs, war on crime, war on poverty, things like that. Well, even in the Bible, It's just a mystical book. It's just full of allegories. I don't no longer take it literal. I don't believe that God in that is literal, or Jesus Christ is literal, or the Christ mind is the Christed or anointed or awakened mind. And the God is representing any God, Allah or any kind of God, Shiva, it doesn't matter, Odin. It's just the archetypes of mind, okay? Well, but Christ said, the poor you have with you always. I used to wonder about that. It's because in this world, there's always going to be death, there's going to be illness, there's going to be sickness, there's going to be those things. In this world of seemingly contrasts and dualities, you have these polarities. You're going to have these things come and go. Now, there are people that talk about how, they were in the occult. They were in the darker end of the occult. They were in the occult and they manifested demons or evil spirits or things like that. Or, well, what you were doing is you're manifesting what was inside of you. And by the way, let me say, all that evil, it exists within me. It exists within you. Evil of evils exists within you. It's what you choose to accept about yourself as true. What you choose to focus upon. What you choose to believe is true. What states you're going to be in. So the evil is you. It's within you. Just like the Bible talks about how evil is within God, death is within God, illness is within God, poverty is within God, but also life and wealth and health and love and all these things is also within God. Which means mind, because God represents mind. Neville Goddard used to say, there is nothing but God. And then he would say, and God is your own wonderful human imagination. Or in a few places, he would, instead of saying imagination, he would say in your human consciousness or in consciousness. God is consciousness. So all these things, when people manifest these, and I believe that people have physical experiences with aliens, with angels, with seemingly dead people that seemingly come up from other realities or times, like the time traveled, or people time travel themselves, have these weird experiences. And I don't mean on DMT or mushrooms or something like that. I'm talking about people actually have these experiences, or they have physical experiences, these psi events, psi events, like seeing Bigfoot, seeing aliens, UFOs. Here at work, just a few weeks ago, I have a radio. I'm one of the employees that has to have a radio because I'm in the loader. And I heard someone say something about, what are you doing? And another one goes, I'm looking at that UFO. And I thought they were joking. And it was a pretty clear day at that time. And I'm in the loader and I'm looking and I'm thinking, because we have a lot of planes and helicopters to fly over this area. And I thought they were just joking. And I looked and I didn't see nothing, And, okay, so I went back to work. I thought it was just a joke, right? Because the guys joke on the radios back and forth through the day to make the day go by quick. And, well, that end of the day, they're all talking about this UFO they seen. So we talking about, yeah, they had photos and they had videos, and maybe I can get some a video of it or whatever, and maybe if I do, I'll put it up on a short or something like that on YouTube. But if I can get one of them to share, video with me or something. But I've seen the videos. They showed it to me, seen the photos, and they were like, yeah, my supervisor, our foreman, yard foreman, he was, matter of fact, he was showing me photos. Yeah. And other employees showed me the photos and video they had and everything. And it was one of those orbs that are like translucent, kind of like clear, like ghostly looking orbs, the big orbs, Well, and it stayed in they said it was out there over 3 hours in the same spot. And it was a clear day. Well, on YouTube, you see these videos of these orbs and people talking about these orbs and the articles on the internet and things like that, these orbs and other types of UFOs. I believe those things. People see Bigfoot. I always like to joke about Bigfoot, but Bigfoot is, people can have those experiences. There was, I think his name is Lloyd Pye. He talked about Bigfoot and Bigfoot possibly being a missing link, a type of hominid, humanoid, maybe that is from, because a lot of people talk about they see Bigfoot and he disappears. In one video I talked about the wolf that my first wife and I seen, and it was not a real wolf, and it was massive. That it turned around and looked at me and just glared at me when I tried to holler at it, and it turned right around. It was just a few yards away from us, and it turned right around, just looked at me. It stepped into a little bit higher grass, but we could still see it, and it disappeared right before our eyes. And this is my first wife many years ago. She and I just looked at each other. What the fuck? Because we knew we weren't seeing something that was real anyway. So I know that these things happen and people have these experiences and things, but it's within you. And I explained in a video where I mentioned that about the wolf, that the wolf was within me, right? There's a reason why my brother-in-law goof around with AI. If you watch like the recent anniversary video I put up, my wife's my anniversary, and I included some AI stuff that my silly brother-in-law made up, and he was just playing around. And one is where I turn into a werewolf, and because he knows that I have that, you know, that thoughts, that the way of thinking and stuff, turn into a werewolf and turn into a demon, is because it's all within all of us. It's the minute you don't want to admit that the possibilities are within you. In the manifesting community on the internet, they always talk about there's so many different versions of you, so many different possibilities. Right, yeah, within the spectrum of good and evil, poor and wealthy, to super rich, to healthy, to really ill, to kind of in the middle, healthy, well, you know, ill, all these type of things. Everything in between, both polarities are possible with you. There's David Icke, and I've listened, you know, off and on for the years I would hear about this David Icke fella, and, you know, I watched a few videos off and on about him and stuff, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And I like what he said about, you know, the elite class and people want to rule us and stuff. You know, he's right. There's assholes that want to do that. That's part of the polarity of this world. There's going to be evil people and assholes and elitists. Well, they're playing their part, their character parts in this play called Earth. Well, David Icke, you know, I don't doubt that some of the things he's talked about, some of the people he's interviewed and stuff like that, they've seen like reptilian people or people shapeshift. I met a man years ago, talked about a shapeshifter that he had met, and he swore up and down it was real. And he described it as, you know, the person that shapeshifted into reptilian type thing. I believe that all these different things and possibilities are real for the person, that they fit your reality and who you are. But for me, I don't do no causes, no stories anymore. I was a Christian, and then I was a racial Christian. I was a holiness Christian for a while, and, you know, all these worrying about conspiracies, New World Order. I got I'm going to show here on camera, but I got this anti-New World Order tattoo right here because I had, I had Demon Hunter, the Christian metal band. I liked the concept of Demon Hunter, not just the band and their music, and I still love their music. But the idea of being a demon hunter, finding demons, fighting for good, you know, fighting for God. And then I put holy war up here. I've got on my wrist here racial holy war. Okay, I used to think that all these things, and I've got other tattoos to that effect. I believe life was about a struggle and a fight, and, you know, we had to fight for the good and stand for what's right and the truth and things like that. And now, to me, live your truth. Now, if you want to talk about the truth, write about the truth in blogs or articles or books, or make videos or songs about, you know, sharing your truth, and, you know, you want to, quote, expose conspiracies or talk about elitists or things like that, just be yourself. That's me. I'm going to be my character, who I am. I'm going to do me, you know. I'm going to do this Ryan character I'm playing, you know. This Ryan character loves cheeseburgers and spaghetti and Mexican food and, you know, heavy metal music, hard rock, rock and roll. I like some old pop music and stuff like that. I like some outlaw country. The things that I like, you know, the things that I'm interested in. I like to dress in all black. I love tattoos, obviously. I love skin art. I love body modification. I love piercings. I love jewelry, gaudy jewelry, things like that. I love politically incorrect things. I always have. I like politically incorrect symbols and flags and non-mainstream shit, counterculture shit, as far as flags, patches, stickers, jewelry, things like that. I've always been that way, and now not manifestation, but metaphysics has allowed me to see that I can be my true self and be truly who I am. I ain't got to worry about trying to please a God or not upset him or anything like that, and, you know, all that kind of shit. So for me, I'm just being me, and I'm going to enjoy my life to the hilt. I just recently had a birthday, and, you know, I'm on the upper end. I'm getting closer to 60 years old, and I want to enjoy my fucking life. I wasted my life with these stories and causes and trying to find the right stories, the right theologies, the right doctrines in the Bible, the right ways to please this God, the right things to believe, chasing down conspiracy theories, you know, always worried about what the government's doing. Listen, I'm always going to say the government's bullshit. I'm always going to say these evil, heartless corporations and banks are heartless and fucked up. But you know what? Regular folks are too. And then there are people that are super rich that don't want to harm anybody. There's people that work at banks or have banks that they don't want to harm anybody. There's people that have businesses and corporations, small and big, that, they don't want to harm anybody. So, and there's poor people that are absolutely evil pieces of shit. So, you know what I'm saying? There's good and bad and all that, and all different people. So, all different walks of life and things like that, economic standings and stuff like that. I'm not into this whole, concept of fighting everything. And I also, when it goes, I'm going to go back to the concept of manifestation. When you want to manifest something. When you think that thing is separate from you, a lot of the decent teachers on YouTube, when they're talking about how to manifest, these so-called manifesting experts and manifesting teachers and coaches, they're right in some of the things that they say, that they universally, almost all of them say. And one of them is that when they say, what a lot of them universally will say, the thing that you want is inside of you. It's not separate from you. And what they mean is in mind. You have to understand that there really is nothing but consciousness. That this world is just an illusion. It's a lucid dream. And when you awaken from the dream, you'll realize that you are God. You are consciousness. And you're an internal consciousness, awareness. Whatever you're consciously aware of, whatever you choose to be consciously aware of. So if you want to be consciously aware of something you want to manifest, just be consciously aware of that you have it. Don't be consciously aware that you constantly don't have it. Don't be consciously aware that you just desire it, because that's the other end of the stick of polarity. Instead, you desire it as one end, not having it or lacking it is on this end. Feeling the desire, feeling the absolute lack, like it's never going to come or whatever, you're depressed because you don't have it. Well, the middle, the alchemization of that, the Sophia, the bafflement of that, the balance of that, is when you realize, I have my desire, and you come to the middle. And that is the wisdom and understanding. So you must understand the divine paradox is the only way you can reconcile the divine paradox is all things are one thing. The Kybalion says this, and it teaches this. All things are but one thing. When you reconcile and bring them both together, you have a balance. Just like they talk about men being in touch with their feminine side and things like that. That means their creative side. It doesn't mean, being like a physical woman. It means being their creative side, their emotional side. Men having, a connection. Women having a connection to their masculinity means, to assert themselves, not let themselves just be walked all over. I'm not talking about being a feminist. Just like when I talk about men, I'm not talking about men being just feminine and weak and doormats. Women shouldn't be doormats either. Well, that's bringing themselves to the middle, right? That's that balance you find within yourself. So in all things balance, my mom was a Libra, and she's passed away. She's been passed away for a few years now, but she always talked about how she was a Libra in the zodiac signs, and she said she liked a balance. She always talked about a balance, and she's right. She is right about that. So you want to find a balance in things and balance things out, find a proper balance, the one that works for you. But for me, again, I don't see anything out, no causes to fight for, no evil to fight. There is evil, there's bad things, there has to be. Okay? So for me, but at the same time, I'm not all love and light. Just love, 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 love. Now, I will say this. The Monroe Institute, Robert Monroe, founder of the Monroe Institute, that's where Tom Campbell, the nuclear physicist, who wrote the book on metaphysics called My Theory of Everything, and he had numerous out-of-body experiences, and I would assume he still does that stuff when he wants to go out of body, so he knows his consciousness, and he started out basically as an atheist. And he met Bob Monroe and worked with Bob and did these out-of-body things and all that and documented it. But Bob Monroe, he'd come to believe in this thing called loosh. You can certainly look it up. There's videos on it and stuff. But the concept of loosh goes back to this basically Christian Gnosticism. Is loosh is this, anytime you have any negative feelings or hate or anger or any kind of pain, trauma, it's the archons of Christian Gnosticism. They feed off of your negativity. Okay, if you want to take that as a metaphor and allegory, go for it, because that actually is relevant. That helps. If you take the Bible as allegory, then it is absolutely relevant, and the stories in it and some of the sayings in it, Old and New Testament, then it can help you. I guess the Quran, Hindu teachings, the Bhagavad Gita's and stuff like that, you take those teachings and you, like the Tao Te Ching, I talk about that sometimes in my videos, I mention it, is you take things that work, that help you. And like Bruce Lee said, who was a big Tao Te Ching quoter, by the way, most people don't realize a lot of what Bruce Lee said was actually in the Tao Te Ching, written by Lao Tzu. called the Tao, or Tao for short. What Bruce Lee talked about, absorb what is useful. Okay, so yeah, absorb what is useful for you. It works for you, but these teachings, if you don't take them literally, then they're going to help you. And if you realize, well, I don't want to build up a lot of negativity and a lot of hate, because then my focus is on that, and then I turn things into a cause. And you may not believe in a literal archons or demons, but you still believe there's something you got to fight. And in my opinion, you should never take that literally. Realize that all things are one. Like the Raw, the Law of One, the book, Raw, Law of One, talks about how everything's all one, all entities, all beings, aliens, beings, everybody's one. One mind, just one mind doing it all, playing all the parts. But we'll then talk about this fight of good aliens and bad aliens, good entities, bad entities, things like this, and drag you back into this story. If you take this stuff as allegory and use it to your advantage, like I said, it's helpful. If you take it literally, I'm going to tell you, it's going to make you miserable. This is why a lot of Christians and stuff like that will, on one hand, say, yeah, you can manifest your reality. You pray and you have faith, and it'll manifest for you. But then at the same time, they'll say the occult and mysticism and metaphysics is the devil. And you see what I'm saying? So they contradict themselves with that kind of stuff. When you take any of this shit literally, the only thing you should take literally is consciousness. Consciousness is the only reality. The law of one is the law of one mind, one universal mind playing all of us human characters, the bugs, the insects, everything. Everything is made up of consciousness. Nuclear physicists like Tom Campbell, nuclear physicists, and there's one that's he's an Italian physicist. I think his name is Fagan. Last name is Fagan. He's on YouTube. And he talks about how he had a physical experience of love, a beam of light shooting out of his heart, and feeling this great love, right? Okay. So nuclear physicists are finding, and with the double slit experiment, they're finding that consciousness is the only reality, and everything that makes up physical reality, what we call atoms and subatomic or subatom particles and things like that, are actually conscious or have a consciousness to them. Well, love is a powerful energy. It is a positivity. It's life-giving. It is life itself. Even the New Testament, the Bible says God is love, right? So love is, you either have fear or you have love. Everything that's negative in your life that causes you to have just lust, greed, anger, things like that, where you stay in those states and you don't, I'm talking about when you just have those negative states, that comes from fear. You have some sort of fear, right? Every time somebody does something negative, there's a fear behind it, right? They just don't know, okay? They don't know no better. I didn't know no better. You just don't know that, hey, you know what? There's no competition. I don't have to fight with anybody. There's plenty of good jobs for everybody. There's plenty of good fresh water and food and resources for everybody. This myth that there isn't, it's all bullshit. Again, I will cite the example in the Bible of the fishes and loaves, which is twice that story happened. Two different stories about that in the New Testament. But anyhow, because the New Testament, I don't want to get into it. But anyway, it's a cool story. It shows about that there's not really any lack. You can have an abundance of lack. There's only abundance. You can have an abundance of lack. Just like you can't have actual darkness. You can just have lack of light. Okay? You can't have cold, just lack of heat, right? You can have an abundance of a lack of light or an abundance of lack of heat, but you can have abundance of bad health. You can have an abundance of poverty in your life. You just never can seem to get ahead. You can have abundance of all kinds of what we call negative things, because you don't realize that if I stop thinking of things as being two, but as one thing, and I can choose one end of the graph, or one end of the polarity or the stick that I want to look at, and focus my awareness on wealth, health, love, happiness. I have the bicycle that I want to manifest. I have the love life I want to manifest. I have the good running vehicle I want to manifest. I have the trip, the cruise trip, or the trip to go see a relative that I want to experience. The tickets to a concert that I couldn't afford or were sold out. I just got tickets. You know, you can have whatever you want if you focus and lovingly focus upon yourself, and don't condition, well, I won't be happy if it don't show up. No, just be love and be happy. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you're not going to get upset or frustrated or mad through your life. I'm not talking about that. If you stay in that state, then what will happen is your body may reflect your mentality. It may try to reflect back to you. People talk about omens and numbers like 222 and 111 showing up and 808 and things like that. Well, there's other things that your higher mind will try to communicate to you. And it will do it through body ailments, illness. Again, I've mentioned this in another video. Look into German New Medicine. German New Medicine, I don't think meant to start out as metaphysical. They see that, they started out as more of just a neurological thing where your brain, but I see it as metaphysical. And so, like, how people talk about, like, if you have a lot of angst or stress in your life, you may develop a heart problem. Well, it's like you're having a hard time swallowing something or chewing something or digesting something, an idea, a concept, something somebody did to you. You can have problems in your mouth. You can have throat issues, including throat cancer. You can have stomach issues from heartburn to stomach cancer, that kind of shit. That's what German New Medicine talks about. If you have a lot of hate and you just keep hate all the time and keep focused on that hate all the time, it may manifest a liver issue, things like that kind of stuff like that. Well, German New Medicine is kind of pointing to some things that the Chinese used to talk about. And it's just simply, these are ways of trying to show you, things that you to be more aware, help you be more aware of what you're focusing on. Help you to be more aware of what you're aware of. Okay, I've went quite a long time in this video, but I just wanted to get my ideas about this whole duality and the seeming mirage that there's things to fight, that there's entities and spiritualities we have to look out for. Like I mentioned Bigfoot earlier. There's Christians that believe that the aliens and the UFOs the guy seen at work here was either a holy angel watching over, getting ready for God's judgment, looking at the area to survey all the different areas, or they'll see it as all evil aliens and evil angels that are transforming themselves into so-called reptilian alien people or Pleiadian aliens or some shit. There's people think that Bigfoot is a demon or a devil. This whole duality thing and all that kind of stuff, you can use things as allegories, you can use things as symbols, but there really is no reality but consciousness, and evil and good and everything else, poverty and wealth, illness and health, everything, love and hate, everything, life and death exists within your consciousness, because that's what you are, is consciousness. So I don't believe in I don't go for any causes or stories anymore as far as, political stuff. We gotta do this, gotta worry about that, or there's this grand conspiracy, or these banking families, or these reptilian lizard alien families that are ruling the world, or there's these aliens that are this or that, good or bad. All these type of things that are going on that, people believe in the demiurge, there's a God that created us, or being that created us, but he's trying to keep us all down, or there's other aliens that don't want us all to expand, so Ra and his alien people, and other good aliens are trying to protect us from the bad aliens, and so there's a whole bunch of UFOs, and there's different, protecting the earth from the bad UFOs, and that's serious stories. That's stuff people fucking believe, man. So, Christians or UFO people or the Davidite reptilian bloodline people. When I was in the racial world, I was saying, the Jews were the devil's, primary people, and that's who were, warned. The devil used the Jewish race to fight us, that kind of shit. Just to believe all that dumb shit. And now I see that, there's evil fucking people of all different races and ethnicities, and there's gay people and straight people, men and women, you can be evil, elitist scumbags, and they're just playing their part. But in reality, I'm like Abraham, the channeled entity from Esther Hicks. I agree with what he says. There's actually nothing wrong with our planet, nothing bad going to happen, and it's just where we put our awareness is what's going to manifest. Now, there was Rudolf Steiner, the mystic from the late 1800s and early 1900s, Rudolf Steiner, and he talked about that there would be a time what he called the war of all against all, and where people with all your fears, and Dolores Cannon talked about this too, if you know who she is. She talked about all your fears and worries and stuff are going to come to the top. They're going to be like pimples. They're going to come out, and people will have to look at them. And that's seemingly what's going on. Is people are having to look at all their fears and all the hypocrisies and their bullshit collectively as a society, right? And it's all coming out, and people are having to face their own bullshit, because we really don't need to be fighting each other in the first damn place. We are all one. All right, I'm going to end this video here.